poem I'm going to read today is called The Emperor of Ice Cream. I'll say it again, The Emperor of Ice Cream. There is a theory that the poet who wrote that, Wallace Stevens, wrote it simply because he wanted to be the first person to put those two words together in a sentence, emperor and ice cream. And maybe he was the first person. It's quite an unusual title. Wallace Stevens was quite an unusual man. Outwardly, he was a typical middle-class 20th century American businessman. He was an executive in an insurance company living in Hartford, Connecticut. He would go to work most days wearing a suit and tie and compose poems, perhaps in his head on the way to work, perhaps in the evening when he got home. He would write them on scraps of paper and hand them to his secretary at work, and she would type them up. And it was all seemed very efficient and organized and orderly. But his poetry was highly unusual, and still, to me, is highly unusual and remarkable. It's profound. It has a very unusual attitude to life, to things in general. Wallace Stevens was not religious. He very much considered, I think, life to be what you make it, and that reality is really how one perceives things around one and one's life in general. And he was sort of existentialist in a way, that I think he felt that we are responsible for our own lives and we must take responsibility for consequences, and we must do our best to do the right thing and respect each other. But he had a wonderful way of transforming that in his writing into showing us his perception of things, and his use of words and language, I think, is very beautiful, and his images sometimes are so original. I find his poetry really interesting and often very insightful and profound. I'm going to read this quite short poem, The Emperor of Ice Cream, and then we can have another word. Call the roller of big cigars, the muscular one, and bid him whip the kitchen cups concupiscent curds. Let the wenches dawdle in such dress as they are used to wear, and let the boys bring flowers in last month's newspapers. Let B be finale of seam. Let the only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. Take from the dresser of deal, lacking the 3 glass knobs, that sheet on which she embroidered fantails once, and spread it out so as to cover her face. If her horny feet protrude, they come to show how cold she is and dumb. Let the lamp affix its beam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. Wow, there are some interesting images, aren't there? I think Wallace Stevens is describing a funeral wake, probably in a hot country. He used to go to the Caribbean, Miami and places south quite often in the winter. And I think this may have been on a visit to Cuba, perhaps, where he may have come upon a wake and noticed how people were simply, coping with what they had to cope with without too much sort of high emotion. They were simply getting on with preparing a wake, and it would be important in a hot climate to have ice cream, and they were preparing the dead person, covering her with a sheet. And he's sort of saying life must be taken as it is, and we just have to get on with things. Very much puts one in mind of the French writer Gustave Flaubert's famous diction, keep your life orderly and simple so that you can be violent and original in your writing. I think Wallace Stevens must have taken that to heart. His life was very orderly, but his writing was very original. I'll just read the poem again, I think, because I like it very much. Call the roller of big cigars, the muscular one, and bid him whip in kitchen cups concupiscent curds. Let the wenches dawdle in such dress as they are used to wear, and let the boys bring flowers in last month's newspapers. Let B be finale of seam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. Take from the dresser of deal, lacking the 3 glass knobs, that sheet on which she embroidered fantails once, and spread it so as to cover her face. If the horny feet protrude, they come to show how cold she is and dumb. Let the lamp affix its beam. The only emperor is the emperor of ice cream. He's saying that's how life goes sometimes, and the most important person is suddenly the one doing a very mundane task. Life has to go on even in death. Thanks for listening.